Dolphins come out with the dub today, but it did get a little hairy there. What is happening, Dolphins fans, and welcome to another episode of the Fins Tailgate. I am your host, El Capitan, and today we are going to recap the Dolphins' 30-15 victory against the Houston Texans. Got a little squirrely there in the third and fourth quarter a little bit, but the Dolphins ultimately come out with the victory. We're going to go in through the numbers, going through some of the stuff, but before we do, guys, make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribing if you're new. If you're not subscribing, then I don't know why you're watching this. So help us out, do us a favor, and subscribe here on the network. All right, guys. So it was really the tale of two halves for the Dolphins today, who were seemingly unstoppable in the first half, then kind of throttled back a little bit in the second. In the first half, Miami scored 5 out of their 6 possessions, 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. And they also even had a defensive touchdown with a massive lick laid on Texans tight end Akins. Eric Rowe came across the field and blasted him, allowing an easy scoop and score for Xavier Howard. But when Teron Armstead left the game right before the second half with a pectoral injury, per Tom Pelissero, the offensive line started to show a little bit of chinks in their armor. Midway through the third quarter, with a 30-point lead, Miami decided to take Tua out of the game after he was sacked 3 times in his last 6 snaps under center. Brandon Shell at left tackle is a far cry from where he was at right tackle, but Austin Jackson didn't do himself any favors today, getting manhandled quite a few times in his return into the starting lineup, giving up some pressures and a sack before leaving today's game with a injury. Again, that ankle just seemed to flare up on him. So one will have to look at this interesting situation what the Dolphins do during this week with Brandon Shell not playing very good at left tackle and Austin Jackson not looking good at the right. The Dolphins, with Teron Armstead in an undetermined state at this point, going to be out with, we don't know. We're going to have to pay close attention over this week how that goes. Hopefully more news will come out, and God willing, we'll get some good information that lets us know he's coming back to the left. But does Mike McDaniel and company decide to put, Brandon Shell back at right tackle? I mean, Austin Jackson, who, again, with his ankle injury, is become unreliable, injury-prone, and downright a liability on this offensive line. So we need to, think about Tua's blind side while he's out there and realize that he's the guy who's putting up all the yards. And when I go through the statistics here directly, you'll see what I'm talking about because it was all him all day long. And I don't want to see Greg Little come back out there. So I would much rather, if Teron Armstead does miss time, I would rather see Austin Jackson at left tackle try out than having 2 bad tackles, at least onto his blind side with Brandon Shell. He'll get some friggin' protection, and he can avoid the pressure. If you guys look at the game today, and we're going to look at the All-22 later down the line, Tua was climbing the pocket and shaking guys off a lot during this game. They only surrendered 1 sack in the first half, but, there was no sacks in the first half, but that wasn't because they weren't getting there. Tua was shaking them off left and right. But anyhow, as for the defense played lights out most of the game, causing 2 turnovers, 1 resulting in a touchdown, as previously stated, several sacks and pressures all game. But they did take their foot off the gas in the third quarter and early in the fourth, allowing Houston to squeak out 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal, giving them 15 points after missing two field goal tries, extra point tries. Ultimately, Dolphins won the game 30-15, but it was not without its hairy moments and woes. Again, when Armstead left the game, the O-line, started showing a little lackluster around here. There was also some questionable run blocking from the offensive line all game. Dolphins only ended up with, what was it, 66 yards on the ground today, which is not going to cut it around in the NFL. Pretty ugly. Jeff Wilson got 39 yards on 13 attempts. Myles Gaskin got 17 yards on 6 attempts. And Hill and Skylar Thompson split the final 10 yards, each getting 5. Just not looking the run game that we expected against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. They really showed out in the trenches, and the O-line just struggled mightily again. Tua came out looking strong. He had some mustard on a lot of them footballs. He was putting heat on it, but a little bit of rust from some of these guys, these pass catchers. Jalen Waddle had quite a few questionable drops from Waddle out there. He did redeem himself with a nice big catch on the day. I believe that right now Hill is number 1 in the NFL with 20-plus yard catches at 21 receptions over 20 yards. And I want to say Waddle is tied for 5th with Kelsey with 17 now. So Tua really pushing the ball down the field, 20-yard passes. Got number 1 and number 5 in the NFL right now, or number 1 and number 3 in the NFL. I can't remember, but he's got 2 wide receivers, top 5 in catching passes 20 yards plus down the field. Dolphins now, with this 30-15 victory, go back into being first place in the AFC East, which is nice. I know you Bills fans felt very comfortable crowing about it the last 3.5 days after your Thursday night game where you guys barely won. Let's be real. You guys suck. You guys sat there and tried to downgrade everything the Dolphins said about us being in the AFC East, but now that you get a moment, a blink of an eye to be in top of the division again, and you crow about it all week. But all the wrongs were made right, and the Dolphins now are back in the AFC East. Only second to the Kansas City Chiefs, who are number 1 in the AFC after their victory against after their victory against the LA Rams, who just couldn't do anything to stop them. They trailed the whole game. Chiefs are 9-2. So let's delve into some of these numbers here for the day. And Tua in the first half, let me just get my handy dandy notebook over here. Tua in the first half was lights out. Like I said, he was 20 of 34 for 287 yards and 1 touchdown. He did end the day coming out early, mind you, 22 of 36 for 299 yards and 1 touchdown. His QBR rating for the day was 96.9. He's been in the hundreds every game. I really feel like the week off, although rest is nice, really this team was cooking, but thank goodness it was the Texans, and hopefully some things can get corrected over this work week coming against the Niners, where the Niners are actually finding a couple problems themselves. A possible MCL sprain, just a little bit of breaking news there, possible MCL sprain for their running back, whose name I'm blanking on right now. They're going to have to start going deep into their running back situation come the Dolphins, and there's still some questions on whether or not Deebo Samuel will be ready for that Dolphins game. So, but we need to do better on offense as far as running the ball. Again, like I said, only 66 yards on the ground during the day. Not good enough. Dolphins need to do a better job. As far as pass catching goes, Hill was targeted 9 times, got 6 receptions for 85 yards, had a 29-yard long and 14.2 average on those catches. Waddle was 50%, catching 5 out of 10 for 85 yards. His long was 34 yards. That was that nice big one that Tua put up there for him. River Craycraft, who I don't know how this guy ain't getting more work. Craycraft was 4 of 4 for 55 yards. He looks like a gem, that guy. Every time he catches the football, he immediately makes a football move and goes north and south. I want to say River Craycraft caught the ball 3 of those 4 times short of the sticks and was able to convert on first downs. Trent Sherfield was caught 2 of 5. Couple of deep shots to Sherfield today that he wasn't able to come with. Tua overthrew him at least once that I can remember. Really put some air underneath it, showing that arm strength off. Cedric Wilson was 2 of 3 for 26 yards. Jeff Wilson was 1 of 3 for 13 yards. Durham Smythe only caught one ball today, but that was all he needed for 40 yards to get that touchdown. Miles Gaskin was 1 of 1 for 4 yards. Ingold caught 1 of 1 for no gain, and Mike Gesicki got one target and wasn't able to come down with it. Tua ended the day, the Dolphins ended the day with 305 yards in the passing game. And, really, Tua did everything. They really got so far out in front of them in the first half that the Dolphins were able to maintain. Even once Tua left the field, there was really not much offense to be had. Offensive line was struggling at that point. Now that Teron Armstead came in, just not a pretty thing. But the Dolphins' defense really showed out again at home today too. Like I said, couple of turnovers. Andrew Van Ginkel had an interception and almost brought it back for a touchdown, bringing it all the way down to the 4th-yard line. Really just, he was this close for that touchdown, man. He was so close, man. And then the Dolphins were able to punch it in with Jeff Wilson for an easy touchdown run in the second touchdown of the game, putting them up to 17-0 in the first quarter, which really started to spell the narrative of what was going to happen to the Texans all day. Later on in the second quarter, that's when Rowe came up and laid the wood and had that fumble caused, which allowed that quick scoop and score from Howard. Jason Sanders. That was after Jason Sanders' second field goal of the day, making it 27-0 with around 4 minutes left in the game. Till the end of half, the Texans have the ball. Elandon Roberts comes off the edge on a nice sack, which he looked real fast on that pass rush, I will say. Even though he got exposed in the passing game later in the second half, he did pick up a nice sack, which killed that drive, which was able to allow the Dolphins to get the ball back with just enough time in the second quarter for Tua to drive it all the way down. And they looked like the Dolphins were going to be able to score, but Tua just gets sacked on like a 10-yard or a 6-yard loss, and he gets bent over by their defensive tackle, Collins. Man, it was ugly look. Everyone gasped. I know I did. But Tua popped right back up, able to clock the play with like a second or 2 seconds left on the clock. Jason Sanders comes up and puts the field goal up. Jason Sanders, also, a little caveat, he was 3 of 3 on field goals, making all his extra points. Shout out to you, Jason Sanders, getting it back on track. I know it didn't ask you to hit anything over 50 yards, but you made all your field goals, you made all your extra points. This is how you start stacking some good days together, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, he was bent back real ugly, but still popped up, able to spike the ball after that field goal. Dolphins are up 30-0, and now it's halftime. Dolphins defense held the Texans in the first half to a total of 32 yards of offense. Dolphins defense had their way. They were 0 of 6 on third downs, and they had 2 turnovers and 1 sack, the sack from Elandon Roberts. Now, again, I told you at the beginning of the video, it was a tale of 2 different teams in the halves, because when the O-line continued to struggle now that Armstead was out, Tua was sacked 3 times in 6 plays, and I have it written here. Tua was sacked 3 times on 6 snaps in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, and that's the point in which Mike McDaniel and everybody was like, all right, that's enough. I've seen it. I'm not going to have you out here taking these shots in a game that the Texans have no ability to beat our defense and get beyond. The O-line continues to worry a lot of us, and listen, we're a contending football team. We cannot have this type of stuff. I do not want to see my quarterback getting pretzeled. I do not want to see this type of nonsense happening. I don't want to see Tua get sacked 3 times in 6 snaps in the third quarter in a game that you know is out of touch wisely. Now, I know there's some pushback. Everyone's like, well, Tua should have ran up the score, and I would have liked to have seen that too. But we were already run up on the score. Their defense was just teeing off. They were shutting down the run game. It was all pass game throughout the entire game with the Dolphins, and we were up far and away too much to let Tua sit out there and take that abuse. It was the right call when it happened. Let's see. Skylar Thompson then came in that game and did what he could, but he looked absolutely terrible, completing only 1 of 6 passes, and he fumbled a snap too, which was really all his fault. It wasn't like it was a bad snap. And the Texans ended up capitalizing on that, getting their second touchdown, making it 12-30 at that point, missing the 2-point conversion because they went for it for 2 points twice in this game and weren't able to come out with it. After a quick 3-and-out from the offense, which resulted from the Miami offense, we punt the ball back, and that resulted in the Texans again driving down the field after an 8-play drive for 57 yards, able to pick up a 28-yard field goal. Now all of a sudden the game's 15-30. At this point in the game, though, and that was right around the I want to say it was right around the, let's see. Yeah, I don't know if it was late in the third or early in the fourth, but right around this time, the defense was like, hell no. They decided to completely wake up at that point. Texans on their last 2 possessions, Jerome Baker gets a 10-yard sack, forcing them to punt. And then Verone McKinley III comes up with an interception late in the game on the Texans' last possession to really just close that game off. And the Dolphins were able to then just, take knees and end this football game. So, really, I mean, we came out so hot on offense and on defense, just absolutely myrtleizing them in the first half. Defense played a little soft in the second half, allowing them to, pick up some plays here and there. Nothing too crazy. It's not like, they went all over the place. I mean, they only ended the day with 215 passing yards, and like I said, in the beginning of the first half, they only had like 36 yards. It was all done in the second half, and all done in pretty much that one little time frame in which the Dolphins went to play zone and played soft and everything like that. And then once they started taking what little bit of slack we were giving them, the defense was like, I don't think so. We went back to putting up some good blitzes and just taking it to their asses. It's a learning experience for the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel and the offensive coaching staff definitely has their work cut out for them when I look at this O-line. And we really need to go ahead and stop playing around and just put Brandon Shell at right tackle. I know we want Austin Jackson to work out. He was a high draft pick, but for whatever reason, this guy is just not getting it together. And I don't want Tua's blind side just because Tua today, in case you guys didn't notice, his pocket work is great. He's shedding guys off. He's sidestepping fools. He's running away from guys, shaking them out of their shoes. He's doing real great, but I don't want to depend on that. And I certainly can't have him do the good pocket work that he could do if it's coming from where he can't see it. That I can't happen. So Austin Jackson, either put him at left tackle where whatever mistakes he makes, Tua can see in front of his face if Armstead ain't there. But give me Brandon Shell back at right tackle. I don't want to take any of these risks. This team is really going places, and we've got a tough stretch coming up. And these next 2 games that we go away to the West Coast, going against San Francisco and going against the Chargers, it's going to tell us a lot about this football team, especially now that a little bit of adversity might be hitting us with Teron Armstead being down. But we'll keep you guys updated. We'll let you all know what's happening. And guys, make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribing if you're new. And welcome to the Fins Tailgate.